The best way for me to describe the shadow is with the concept of tone deafness, or the failure to see ourselves the way other people see us. Tone deafness, in its literal sense, is the inability to make accurate distinctions in musical intonation. However, the tone deafness that I'm speaking of today is social tone deafness. The inability to perceive ourselves in the manner that other people perceive us. The reason I believe this is we have a tendency to justify in ourselves the very things that we find offensive in other people. Growing up, my father would often reprove me for my impatience. All too often, he would say, "Don Anthony, did you know the Bible says patience is a virtue?" As far as I was concerned, my father was an idiot. I was too patient. Everyone else was too darn slow. After learning to drive, I would often become furious, waiting in traffic. Why is it that I am the only one on Houston streets who drives at a reasonable speed while everyone else drives too slowly? Now that I'm older, I am forced to ask myself, how is it I am the only one that does things at a reasonable pace? And if that's true, why are there people that accuse me of being too slow? I have known the reason for my haste, and understanding the reason for my haste has allowed me to justify my impatience. But not understanding the reasons for the hasty behavior in other people has caused me to find it offensive. The very thing that I condone in myself, I find offensive in other people. The way we see our shadows is not directly but indirectly. The way that we know we are tone deaf is by the reactions that we receive from other people. People who are tone deaf do not know they're tone deaf. It's nearly impossible for them to know they are tone deaf. And consequently, it is easier for them to believe their critics are tone deaf than it is for them to believe they themselves are tone deaf. For that reason, I find it very difficult to accept criticism. If people could only see me through my eyes and hear me with my ears, they would not be so critical of me. Yet, it's impossible for people to see with my eyes and hear with my ears. Years ago, as a young man in my 20s, I belonged to a small Southern Baptist church. Even though one of our members had a classically trained voice, it was mediocre at best. For that reason, the music committee hardly ever asked him to sing. And the few times he was asked, it was with great reluctance. He believed the other singers in the church were envious of him. And he believed it was their envy that prevented him from singing. After years of frustration and disappointment, he gave up. And he would often ask me, why should I waste my classically trained voice on people who do not appreciate it? He was not able to hear himself the way other people did. And because he was not able to hear himself the way they did, he was right and they were wrong. He was the one with the classically trained voice. They weren't. He was the one who had sophisticated taste. They did not. And because he felt that he was right, he felt entitled to singing. And because they did not permit him to sing, he felt cheated out of something that was rightfully his. And because he felt cheated, he came to resent the other members of the church. This reminds me of one of Aesop's fables, the fox and the grapes. A fox spied a bunch of grapes hanging from a vine trained along the branches of a tree. The grapes appeared to be so ripe. It was as though they were about to burst with all their juices gushing forth at any moment. After the fox realized that was not going to happen, he jumped as high as he could, but missed the grapes. He walked off a short distance, turned around, and made a running jump, but only to miss the grapes again. He tried again and again, over and over, but it was all in vain. Sitting beneath the tree, he looked up at the grapes and cursed them, calling them sour. After some time, he stood up and scornfully walked away. The fox did not call the grapes sour because he really believed the grapes were sour. He called the grapes sour because with his skill and determination, he believed he was entitled to the grapes. And missing the grapes was an injustice. He felt cheated by fate. And because he felt cheated by fate, he came to resent the way things were. In all three cases, my impatient, the tone-deaf singer, and the fox and the grapes, all three of us felt we were right. And it was that sense of being right that made us feel that we were entitled to something reality did not support. And because we felt entitled, we felt cheated. And because we felt cheated, we resented the way things were. For that reason, I believe it does me well to believe I am entitled to nothing. I either have what it takes to accomplish my ambitions, or I don't. If I don't, there's no one to blame. That's just the way things are. I can be mad at the world, and because I'm angry with the world, be at odds with the way the world is. Or I can accept the way things are, and it's by acceptance, and it's by coming to terms with this life that I reconcile myself to this world. And in reconciling myself to this world and reality, I find peace.